Is it possible that we just had a huge leak of the Switch 2 and what it might look like externally, and also a sneak peek into what it might look like internally? I don't know. I'm a little skeptical, but let's take a look on That Game Place. Hi, friends. It's me, CC, here with my buddy, my pal, that friend of mine, Nolan Thunder. How's it going, Nolan?
It's going great. It's always a good day when I'm doing something with Culture Casino here. And I gotta say, is this a little sneak preview of Christmas morning, what we're looking at right now?
I don't know, Nolan, but I think it's somewhat convincing, and we're going to leave it to you to judge. But we're going to pop into this leak that was coming out of, I guess, the recent VGC and some of their extra content that was provided by Andy Robinson. Now, according to what we're about to look at, there it is. Alleged images of Nintendo's new Switch have appeared online, and it shows an 8-inch screen and magnetic Joy-Cons. Kind of everything we were told, right, Nolan?
Oh yeah, no, this leak that just came out is lining up almost perfectly with all the rumors going around that's past several months. Like the past year, if you were to take this and line it up with like every leak you're seeing on X, it almost looks perfectly aligned. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, I'm with you there, and even when I looked at the PCB, it looked like it could be authentic, and perhaps we were going to get the upgrades we were looking for. But these particular images of the Nintendo Switch successor console have appeared online, and they've been drawing everybody's attention. I will just say that. They appeared on Reddit, but were originally sourced from a Chinese social media website. It shows a device with a larger 8-inch screen, magnetic Joy-Cons, USB-C ports on both top and bottom, which authentically look like that's correct. While the images are unverified, one source who has not seen the final Switch 2 console but has been briefed on Nintendo's plans told VGC that the Reddit images match what the company has told partners to expect from its design. VGC has asked Nintendo to comment on the story. Clearly, they have not as of yet. But according to today's images, well, you don't expect them to say anything.
Yeah,
But
they just come out and you're like, yep, that's it, Chief. That's our big new system right there.
Yeah,
Good job, Reddit.
We didn't want to do a proper reveal at all, or whatever. Make it fancy.
I just figure it cuts to Nintendo headquarters. They have like some guys dressed up as Mario and Luigi, have like the big cake, and the streamers like, show's over, folks. We're canning it.
That's right. Yeah. Well, the Switch 2 is going to include some very powerful things, which we already knew like 3 times over because they have to get all this hardware gathered up and they have to get people to source it and build it for them. So it's got 12 gigabytes of RAM compared to the 4 of the original Switch and support for HDMI 2.1. Now, that's surprising. I thought they would have pushed it all the way up, but 2.1 is good enough, I guess, for them. And 256 gigabytes of internal storage. And why not? Storage is cheap now, so let's have plenty of it. That matches an alleged shipping leak from earlier this year, which really did specify almost everything as far as the hardware went. While the designs shown in the images are similar controllers to the current Switch, there are some notable changes, such as a revised SL and SR button and a front-facing player LEDs. I think we've also got some potential for a camera, although I didn't see that here in the design. But as you can see here, this looks like we're looking on the left. 3 of these images, you can tell, are from a piece of software like Fusion 360 or something like that, CAD design software. This is not in real life. But this one image right here, that's real life. And it's done for, well, comparison's sake as far as Joy-Con connectivity, et cetera, et cetera. Now, moving on down. This next set of images, and all this is available on Andy Robinson's Twitter, by the way. You can take a look here, and this is a breakdown box of what looks like a prototype to me right here with prototype Joy-Cons. This is a mock-up in Fusion 360 or similar of the new console's back plate, which includes some trigger buttons, which we'll get to in a moment. And this is the supposed top part of the new Switch, which you can see the exposed triggers as well as the hat buttons. And on the bottom, it's got a USB-C. So I originally was skeptical. Actually, I still kind of am because I was thinking maybe the game door would have been much bigger. But I'm going to throw that to Nolan. Nolan, I started to get skeptical, and then you started to pay closer attention. What do you think? Does this look authentic?
When I first found this, and especially with how much it's been rolling around in the media right now, like everyone's got their eyes on this. Could this be the big alleged Switch 2? I am leaning more towards the side of I don't think it's real because looking at that, particularly I'm glued to that second picture there. I am not a 3D modeling expert. I tried doing a donut in Blender a bit. I made a donut that was cool, but I'm not a 3D modeling expert. But I can analyze, the live action pictures, and especially in that like second image where you see, like the circuit board and all that. I
Oh, let me
keep
get that.
getting drawn to the Joy-Con in there. Yeah, that one right there. I
Yeah.
keep, recently here we covered some of those prototype GameCubes, and I'm kind of thinking back to a lot of the many different kinds of prototypes. I remember one that literally looked like a Mario Star, which was a prototype for the Wii. Pretty much anytime I've ever seen a Nintendo prototype, these things are pretty well refined. We usually don't get to see when they're like really infant stages. I keep looking at this Joy-Con and it looks cheap to me. I know it's unfinished, but compared to like the GameCube prototypes where like it's still clean, it still looks like there's a lot of craftsmanship to it. This comes off to me like almost like a cheaper thing, like someone's trying to mimic something. And I gotta say, if this is a hoax, it's a very impressive hoax. There are times where sometimes truth is stranger than fiction, and I could see this end up being the real Switch. I was saying a bit earlier about how I remember years ago before Smash Brothers came out, there was the alleged Grinch leak where it looked like they had leaked the final roster of the whole game and it looked official because it was around the same time that Illumination was coming out with their big Grinch movie. It looked like a production factory where the guy took the picture of the alleged picture of the roster and it all ended up being a bunch of bogus. This is a lot more underwhelming. It's pictures on like a table, and it's not just the stereotypical like here's my one shot blurry picture. Like, there's 3D modeling to go with it. And a lot of fakers, I don't think, would have the goals to actually throw 3D renders of some, which gives this a lot of credit. It's lining up with everything we've been hearing almost perfectly. And
Yeah.
I think I'm kind of like you, if you agree, where I just keep flipping back and forth on, almost a complete split 50-50. But if it was like, if I had to make the decision, if Bowser was about to throw me in the lava per se, I would say it's fake. But it's close. I tell you, it's close, man.
Well, and like you said, the reason that I'm so split on it is because if you had to keep prototyping something around a form factor for your PCB board and stuff like that, this might be one of the iterations that you came up with. But again, it has too many things about it that make it feel authentic, as you kept pointing out. The little pockets where the Joy-Cons are going to magnetically connect to the sides. We've been hearing about that for feels like almost a year now. And as I look at the PCB itself, it looks like that's authentic. It's if I tore down the Switch that I have in my hand here, if I tore this thing down, it looks like something that would be similar to that, only with a bigger screen. And that's why this has a little bit of, oomph to it. It also, the Joy-Cons are longer than the original Nintendo, right? The original Switch. They are much longer. They're more pronounced to match up with that 8-inch form factor. They also have an extra button. If you notice on the right-hand Joy-Con there is in addition to the circle, there's a square right below it. So that's on the bottom part of that Joy-Con controller. Everything else looks very similar. And again, if somebody went to all the trouble to fake this and get it this close, they did a darn good job. But let's take more looks at these. We got the back plate. This makes sense. Here's your two triggers. Yeah, you can see the mouse. There's one of your triggers. There's another one of your triggers. I don't know how you're going to use said triggers. I
think that's confusing everybody right now is those triggers. They seem like an odd move. But I'll tell you, if that back stand is real, I am all for it because that looks a million times better than what we've been having.
Yeah, I mean, the hats and the triggers on this make sense. I don't know what these are. I mean, am I now using my middle fingers to pull these things where the Joy-Con buttons used to be?
Let's remember, though, this is Nintendo. They seem to think we had a third arm for the N64 controller.
Hey, I'm going to tell you, I didn't mind that, or the center trigger. I know a lot of people complain about that, but I didn't care.
I like the dog on it, but it's comfy. It's still, at the end of the day, it's comfy.
Yeah, and then of course this is the new top, right? That gives you the USB-C port on the top, which doesn't exist on the current, right? You can see you can see the audio port is still up top, and you can see that the access door for the game card it is still on top. If that's actually what it is, if it's not actually hidden behind this door, right? Because this could be a door in addition to a kickstand. But here's the weird thing, and let me just say it this way: there's a lot of weird things to this, but this is the other odd thing here. There's a USB-C port on the bottom here, and there's also a couple of speaker slots that are down there. So I'm so confused now. Could this be real? Could it not be real?
You think it could be a convenience matter because of, like, say, because they're going to need to be able to dock it. So I think that's why they have the port at the bottom. Do you think they're trying to put one at the top for convenience sake? But I guess that would be kind of a bit of production cost just to put one at the top. It seems a bit redundant.
Or it could be a throughput thing, or it could be a connect to another switch thing. Or, there's a lot of things they could utilize it for. Like maybe they want to go with a visual, like a set of augmented reality glasses, or the ability to do VR. But anyway, I'm just speculating. So, but as you can see, the person went to a lot of trouble to show you the modeled version of the Switch original, and this is how I know it's modeled. It's because it's all cambered out, right? But you can see the original slide slots for the Joy-Cons of the original Switch, and then you see the pockets for the new ones. So anyway, it's just a couple of quick thoughts that I had. It's definitely rendered, as you can see, because it's all janky at the top up here. But, this is, it could be authentic. It could be authentic because, again, this looks like it should for the most part. All right, let's get back to the article. That was fun, but we need to get back to the article. And there we go. All right, so here we are. So two sources at VGC spoke to. Two sources VGC spoke to last year suggested the console could launch with an LCD screen instead of the more premium OLED in order to bring costs down, especially considering the increased storage needed for the higher fidelity games. Chinese peripheral maker MobaPad also previously claimed that the Switch 2 handheld would support 1080p resolution and that its new dock will support 4K. Whew.
I'm not used to the words Nintendo and 4K in the same sentence.
Me either. But a lot of people play their Nintendos docked. I mean, let's just be, they plug it into their television. So
that's how I usually do it, honestly.
Yeah, that's not surprising. So while Nintendo has refrained from making any specific comments about future hardware when it asks about features like backward compatibility, which we fully expect, by the way, plans to announce the next console during its current fiscal year, which runs until March 31, 2025. So I'm feeling that's about when we're going to hear. Sometime in April, I think we'll hear about this. Last month, it was claimed that developers had not been briefed not to expect Nintendo's console to launch before April of 2025. All right.
Which is very close.
Yeah, I'm kind of starting to feel like maybe that's the case. So VGC reported in February that Nintendo had internally delayed the launch of its next-gen console from this year to early 2025. All of this is lining up. One publishing source suggested that the delay was so that it could prepare stronger first-party software for the console, while others claimed that the move was to avoid potential hardware supply issues. Why not both? I mean, one of the big problems... It could be anything. Well, but one of the big problems with I'm just going to ask you, one of the big problems with the launch of the Switch was the lack of supply,
Yeah.
So having enough on hand that's a good argument.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And not to mention, why rush right now? You really don't have to. Your competition is eating themselves out from the inside out. Like, you're coming off the heels of the Mario movie last year. You're able to cruise this year a little bit. Like, I don't think there's much of a rush. Just take time, make sure you got enough ready to go, and then boot it. And you were talking about, you think it'll be announced sometime early next year. I'm I think we're going to hear something by probably around November is what I'm kind of calling for. I think we'll hear something probably about a good 2 months from now. At least that's my theory.
Well, Hosiden, which is the assembler for Nintendo, is spending $2 billion on production equipment and 1 billion yen. And as I keep saying dollars, I'm sorry, yen. 2 billion yen and 1 billion yen on automation for fiscal year 325. So, wow, that's for its major customer in amusement, Nintendo. I still expect September news and March 2025 release of the next device. I think March or April. What do you think, Nolan?
For release or announcement?
September for news. We're about through September, and
Yeah.
March 2025 for new device.
Yeah, I'm thinking we're gonna get an announcement, some sort of tease in October. We'll get an official announcement of what it's called and all that in November, kind of for people to all have in the back of their minds during the holiday season this year. And then, which could be kind of a double-edged sword, that could be seen as detrimental, but it wouldn't be the first time they've gone for some announcements so late in the year. And I do definitely I think it's going to be right with how the Switch was. I think we're going to see it in March next year. I think history will repeat itself.
I think you're right, Nolan, and I fully expect that to happen. I also think that there's a 50-50 chance that these leaks are authentic. You can go and look at them for yourself on Andy Robinson's Twitter. But at the same time, I can see why I somewhere in my mind I'm going, maybe this isn't going to work. But regardless, I want these images to be real, but I want it to be more refined when we get it. And I want the promised cartridge storage upgrade to be there as well, because if you're going to run a 4K game, you're going to have to, bake in some more of the stuff. You know what I mean?
Great.
So, all right. Final thoughts, Nolan, on the Switch 2 and the authenticity of this leak.
Well, I'm telling you, it's real right now because looking at those controllers, you're talking about how long they are. My issue with the regular Switch is that the buttons are too close to like the joystick, and they made it longer, but they didn't move them farther out. So just to make me mad, I'm sure they're going to make this the real thing, but I would be okay if this is real. Of course, there's part of me that wants some more of that Nintendo pizzazz to everything, but I've been saying probably for like a year now that they just need to play it safe with this next system. Just make an awesome system with great games, and I think your user base is going to be happy. You don't really need to push innovation outside of your as far as your hardware goes, because I think the games do enough as it is. And with your competition failing to even really get into the sphere of making their fans happy, I think you're in a good position. And if this is what it's going to be, I wish it came out with more pizzazz, a fancy, good old 2005 fake looking trailer with like Requiem for a Dream or something like that the hoaxer could do. But you know what? I think we're in good hands if this ends up being what it is.
Yep, I agree with you, and I'm looking forward to it if it is the reality that we get, especially the 4K. But hey, you've heard us talk. What do you think? Do you think that this is authentic? Do you think you're excited for a new Switch 2? And do you think that we'll see it sometime in March or early April? All those questions are up for grabs. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below, along with any other thoughts you might have on this console leak. And until next time, get your game on!